What days off? Saturday edition of Orange and Blue today. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Andrew Mason, and it's Anonymous Scout time, Mace. I can't stand Anonymous Scout. Let's tell a little bit of the backstory before we get into the latest from a thorn in the side of, honestly, the NFL, in my opinion, Anonymous Scout.
This is a tradition unlike any other in NFL media. So, a longtime NFL writer who covered the Packers for most of his career, Bob McGinn, was working for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel for many years now. Works on Ty Dunn's Go Long Substack.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
It is fantastic. That's kind of like our friend Mike Tanier's Substack. I think it's very well worth a subscription. Well, the thing the thing that Bob McGinn still does. I mean, I guess I'd say he's kind of in semi-retirement, but does a lot of draft stuff still. Is he'll go to some of his scouts that he knows and just get quotes and this, that, and the other. And, McGinn's been on the edge the last couple of years because remember, he was the one who was putting out those cognitive assessment numbers. Like he was the one that broke the whole thing with CJ Stroud last year, right? And
right.
for years,
yeah.
And for years, he was the one that was putting the Wonderlic results out there in the public sphere. So I would say there's some dubious consequences of some of the stuff that puts out there. I mean, I'll say this for Bob. He is a very well-researched reporter. I mean,
yes.
One of the people that I remember in college reading his work when all the newspapers from around the country would come into the library and I'd, read other writers, other markets. And, he was a must read on the Packers back then. This is when they were emerging with Brett Favre. But I feel like some of the stuff that gets out there doesn't do these young men any favors.
Right. And we brought it up briefly, Mace. We can unpack it a little bit more. Like Anonymous Scout, first off, Bob's talking to real evaluators. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing is because it's anonymous, they just have this freedom to just kind of rip kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff, we're going to get to some of these quotes, and you've made some great slides for the show. A lot of this stuff is just way off base. So it's really doing damage at the time when, teams are putting together draft boards.
Yeah, I know I've said this before, but for any of you who are watching this, who've seen the movie Moneyball, and have seen the scenes where you got the scouts there saying, "Oh, players' girlfriends like this," that scene is far closer to reality than you'd probably like to believe.
Yes.
In terms of a lot of these discussions, there's a lot of nonsense, and. Let's just get right. Let's get right to it. I know we have slides on the other quarterbacks, but let's start with, for example, what's being said by Anonymous Scout. And in the case of this article, it's usually it's 2 or 3 anonymous scouts. Anonymous Scout on Caleb Williams, the putative number 1 overall draft pick. Now, some of it is good. It's like
some of it is fitting. Others is it's a little fuddy-duddy for me.
Yeah, here's stuff that I think is fair. He can throw on timing. He has rare feel for the game and playmaking. That team at USC was horrible around him. The offensive line was atrocious. He's worth the first pick. The Mahomes comparisons are unfair because you shouldn't put that on anybody. But when he does a lot of the crazy stuff, it looks like him. He's Mahomes, but he can get the yards running. So, okay, cool. All right, that's fair, right? But then here we go to the other stuff. Quote, he's got a lot going on. His dad's a pain in the ass. He's got a management team. He's supposedly going to do nothing at the combine, not even get the medical. It's not the kid, it's other people. This is a guy who will fly to Milan for a fashion show. Other interests are great. It's just the one position where if I hear a guy has a ton of other interests to be a franchise QB1 in today's world, I don't want a robot, but a lot of outside interests concern me. Quote.
That's old school NFL, and that's just
Yes.
wrong-headed because guys like Caleb Williams of that ilk, of that talent level, are going to have management teams. Now, the dad thing is something I've heard a lot about, and teams it's the Kyler Murray thing. Kyler Murray's dad's gotten in the way of his career. So, yeah, they're dealing with the helicopter parent again for the number one pick. But the other interest stuff, the NFL doesn't like that, Mace. I personally do like that.
I like that because usually players with other interests are really smart. They've got, it's like
Arian Foster.
Yeah, Trevor Price. I mean, Trevor, remember, was working as a music producer. He ended up writing children's books, right? I mean, other interests. I mean, it's not just me sitting here and saying I like talking with those individuals because they've got other things going on and they're fascinating people in general. But other interests means, you've got a pretty fertile mind, right? And that means you're going to be able to handle the intellectual rigors that are involved with playing in the NFL. I mean, it's funny. I mean, contrary to the perceptions a lot of people have, this is not a sport for dummies. It really isn't.
Right.
You got
why guys like Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah.
Rob is really smart. He may act like a meathead, really smart player,
Yeah.
So, but it's old school scout, Mace, that rubs me the wrong way, grinds my gears because it's like, I don't want a robot, but I kind of want a robot.
It's like, I love that. Like that quote, I don't want a robot, but a lot of outside interests concern me. Then you want a robot. You're contradicting yourself in this quote, Mr. Anonymous Scout. I mean, I don't want a robot, but a lot of outside interests concern me. Well, then, yeah, you're telling me you want a robot. You're telling me you want somebody who just wakes up, goes to the facility, studies, plays, whatever, goes home, studies everything, goes to bed, right? Lives a monastic life, a life devoid of other intellectual interests and passions. That's what you're saying you want. First of all, I mean, I have if someone like that, I mean, first of all, they're going to be boring, right? Yeah, not a fan of it. Yeah, not a fan. Yeah, just say it. You want a robot? I don't want a robot,
but I want someone that does exactly about football. Like that's a robot.
And yes, yes sir, no sir, never questioning anything, right? I'll just give you an example of a player who questioned a great many things. It was Peyton Manning, right? Now, I mean, was Peyton causing problems and dissension and discord? No, he wasn't. But everything that came up, he would question. Why are we doing this? Peyton, people who question want to know the why. Whereas, old school football person, old school sports ball person, because I don't think this is strictly endemic to football, just want somebody who's going to be yes, sir, no, sir. They don't want somebody who's going to go like Oliver Twist and ask for more gruel. Okay.
Yeah.
They want it
old school.
Yeah. They want someone who's just going to genuflect and not rock the boat. You want a robot. You want a happy little drone. That's what this. I don't want a robot outside interest. Yeah.
Yeah, you totally want that. We actually have a picture of NFL Scout showing up at college campuses. This is what he looks like.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Caleb Williams isn't the only one though. We can go to Jaden, or we can go to the Drake Maye stuff. We got a lot to say about Drake Maye. So wherever you want to go, Mace, let's lead the way.
Let's start with Jaden. And it says, quote, "That guy bothers me because his short to medium passes, he misses horribly. He can throw the deep ball, but he had two of the best receivers in all of LSU history. Yeah, he can run, except he's not very big. I think he may get broken in two. To me, he's more athlete than quarterback." Oh, God.
Yeah, here we go again.
Ending the quote, "I wouldn't take the guy in the first," unquote. Oh, boy.
Sure.
Didn't we get over this with Lamar Jackson? Shouldn't we? I mean, what was it? Bill Polian who was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if he's a quarterback." Yeah. whatever. 2-time MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
modern. We need to be more modern.
We need to be more modern. We need to stop putting prospects into boxes. That's the other thing. Like, they just want somebody who's going to fit into this box. That's it. Right here. Square peg, square hole. Yeah, makes you feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never the thought of taking, okay, if we have a round peg, how do we take this square hole and make it a round hole? How do we, take the piece of clay and alter it so there's going to be a fit? Well, the problem with that is that's more challenging for football, for old school football types. That requires a lot of more work.
Yes. Oh my God. That requires innovation. Something the NFL has kind of been against. There's a lot of ways. We don't need to get too deep into this, Mace, because it's really deep. But there's a lot of ways the NFL is really backwards in their thinking.
Yeah.
Like really, really backwards. And it's why you hear the athlete, not a quarterback. Okay.
Oh God.
I'll bring it up. I'll go there. And I said I wasn't going
to
go there.
Are you and I thinking the same thing here?
What
perhaps?
if Jaden was not an African-American quarterback?
Bingo.
Would they be saying the same damn thing? Or would old school NFL scout being like, look at this kid run. Oh my God. Like, that's where NFL, you got this stank on you. Yeah. And with Justin Fields, you don't get it off. With Lamar Jackson, you don't get it off. And now with Jaden Daniels, that stank is still there.
The phrase more athlete than quarterback is racist as bleep. Okay. Racist AF.
There you go.
It is.
NFL. Yeah. Yeah. Some of these evaluators need a little tune-up. So, because we have some athletic quarterbacks who are Caucasian, and we don't hear that about Drake Maye. Drake Maye can run. He can't run like Jaden. Drake Maye can run. Drake Maye a little bit as well.
Drake Maye walks into the NFL. He's probably a top 5 running quarterback, but no one's saying athlete.
Athlete, not quarterback.
Oh God. I mean,
really, why are we not saying that? We can be honest about this, NFL. Y'all got to check yourself.
JJ McCarthy's going to be a top tier runner when he goes in the league. No one's saying, he's an athlete. Yeah.
Right.
God.
It's a real frustration. I'll speak just candidly, Mace. Like, it's a frustration uncovering this game. When I have to hear Vic Fangio say, like, it's a meritocracy. Like, no, it's not. Not in coaching circles. It is old school, good old boy network and all that entails. And yes, that even includes an evaluation.
Yeah. Yeah, like to say you don't. What was it Vic said? Like, the meritocracy thing.
Yeah, it's meritocracy.
You have some that say, like, don't see racism. Well, then you're not paying attention if you don't see racism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we still get this with black quarterbacks. Bottom line.
How? I mean, there shouldn't have been any questions to begin with. I mean, think of how many great quarterbacks in this sport didn't get a chance to show their abilities. Think of what the sport was denied because, for example, after 1968, some doofus told the late Marlon Briscoe, you're going to be a wide receiver. You can't be a quarterback, when he had an incredibly promising rookie season for the Broncos.
Right.
I remember talking with Marlon many years later about this, and he was magnanimous about it, but there was still anger and bitterness, and I think perfectly understandable on his part. I'd like to think that today, if Marlon Briscoe came in, that he'd be a quarterback and that would be it, right?
We can't even get to a draft without Jaden Daniels or Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson being seen as athletes and not passers. And the thing is, Jaden's really smart. Go back and watch our Doug Farrar interview from the Combine. And Doug watched film with Jaden Daniels before the Heisman presentation. Like, Jaden is multi-level, full field reads, 90 explosive plays. Like, that's why he's my favorite quarterback. Understanding that Caleb could be generational, my favorite and number one quarterback is actually the LSU kid.
You're not the only one who feels that way too. Shoot, I remember watching him at ASU and being taken with him. How he sees the field, how quickly he processes pre-snap and post-snap. I mean, he's got all the tools you need. He's gonna go out there on most of the time. He's gonna be the smartest player on the field. Okay, and oh, by the way, he can make all the throws. So this athlete thing, I mean, just give me a freaking break. You know what that tells me? It tells me that you haven't watched Jaden Daniels. That's what it. Okay.
It tells me Bob McGinn needs to talk to like younger scouts. Maybe that'll do it. I don't know.
Bob's been covering the game a long time, so I imagine they're older. Let's get to Drake Maye, because this is the other thing. Like there was some positive stuff on Jaden Daniels.
You want positive or negative Drake Maye? I'll put up the slide.
Let's start with a negative and go with and then go with the positive. We're gonna try to make heads or tails of this stuff.
Okay. Here's the negative stuff. He shrunk under just the pressure and the gravity of what was going on around him. He's got an arm, he can move around, but everything is just flashes. Nothing is consistent. It's all flashes. Doesn't have a very good feel for the game. There's a little bit of Drew Lock in him. Close quote.
Makes me worried that maybe this person talks to Mark Schlereth, because Schlereth was saying he'd rather have Drew Lock than Drake Maye.
Right.
Which I'm sorry, I completely disagree with. For starters, if for a fair comparison, look at Drew Lock at Mizzou and Drake Maye at North Carolina. What I see with Drake Maye is a far more consistent quarterback and somebody who does not play hero ball to the same degree as Drew Lock does. The other thing I see on Drake Maye, respectfully, Drew Lock, is it's not that Drew Lock isn't coachable. Where Drew misses is taking what he's taught and applying it under duress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that has held him back. And it's
why he has arm arrogance.
Yeah, exactly. Like he'll ingest the information. He'll make the right decision in practice, in the vacuum. And then you get out there full speed. That's where you revert to ingrained behavior and, just winging it all over the place, right?
Launching it.
Yeah. With Drake Maye, I see, tangible decision-making growth, over the course of his time there. I see somebody who can make all the throws. I also see somebody who was very similar to Sam Howell, was let down by his teammates more often than probably anyone would care to admit, but he never pointed a finger, handled it very well, put it on himself. Drake Maye would put it on himself even when it wasn't his fault, which is what a leader does, right?
Right. And even though the scout's saying flashes, I will say this: what he does do is repeatable. So you'll see him do the same thing. These are high-level decisions in terms of using your eyes to manipulate the safety. A lot of young quarterbacks don't do that at all, don't know how to do it. With Maye, he does do it. Okay, he doesn't do a lot, but I've seen him make that same sort of look in multiple games, not just one game. We got to get, and I love Stink to death, love him. We can't do the one game thing, not at all. That's not a full picture of what a player can be.
Right. And I'll say this respectfully. I've watched a lot more than one game on Drake Maye. So North Carolina is one of those programs I watch very closely. And the body of work, it's not just flashes, because these flashes show up game after game after game. It's who he is. They're a high level. Every game there are high level throws. Every game. He'll squeeze it. He'll find tight windows. He leads his receivers very well. What you'd like to see more consistency in terms of his fundamentals and his footwork, but that's the type of thing you can coach into him. Look, just like JJ McCarthy, everyone says he's so young. Well, so is Drake Maye, right? 2 years as a starter, 1 year as a red shirt behind Sam Howell. So he's young. He's still learning. He's still growing. Now, the other side of Drake Maye, let's put this slide up, because this is like, whoa.
I know.
Here's the quote: guys like him win Super Bowls. He's a pocket passer, but not a stack shoe. I don't think he's Tom Brady, but he's in the Tom Brady church as far as style of player. You're not going to miss on the kid either. Kid knows how to work.
Oh my God.
And in the ... was talking about his family. You and I've talked about, youngest of 4 brothers, and somebody who comes from an athletic family and
competition, man.
has been through a lifetime of competition in his own house, right? So
he just flashes, but you win Super Bowls with this guy. It's pretty good flashes.
Yeah, I mean, there are two names I hesitate to put on any quarterback prospect because it's not fair: Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world of anonymous scout.
Yeah, the anonymous scout. Guys like him win Super Bowls. Oh my! Tom Brady. I mean, you're thinking like if you went just by that scout, why are you picking Caleb Williams number one? I mean, oh, sheesh.
And why is Drake Maye falling? We've talked about it before. I honestly think it's just people warming up to Jaden, not the guy that said he was an athlete, but just it's warming up to Jaden and that upside of Jaden there's upside with Drake too. And I think people overlook that, Mace.
And also, I think the experience factor probably does factor in, even though you definitely see upside with Drake Maye. It's Jaden Daniels. I mean, he was I believe a 3-year starter at ASU and then he goes to LSU. So there's a security blanket there with Jaden Daniels in all the film that is out there compared to the experience level of Drake Maye. And I would also say this. I do think there's some helmet scouting going on with Drake Maye.
For sure. Yes.
And
which is the biggest no-no, and people still do it, not just in the media, but actual scouts.
Yes.
Helmet scout, and that's a no-no.
The only helmet scouting I think you should go into play is if you've got prospects at the same position who are tied on all counts, and one program does a better job with its coaching developing that position than the other, then you use it to break a tie. That's it. I use
the helmet to see who they're playing against. For me, it's the helmets of the other guys they're facing.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it as well. I mean, it doesn't mean you'll always hit on that, but it does mean that you give some guys some looks. I mean, let's face it, if you are looking at an edge rusher who had 12 sacks in their senior year, and one of them had a 5-sack game against William and Mary, and one of them had a 3-sack game against Alabama, respectfully to the tribe of William and Mary, you're going to take a longer look at the person who racked it up. I mean, honestly, with Drew Lock, a concern that I had, most of his big games,
top 25 teams.
Yeah, and a lot of you look at his big games, and they're coming against a group of 5 and FCS, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he didn't finally have a wow performance against a top 25 team until his senior year when he went against Florida. So
there we go. Let's go do Penix and wrap it up with the McCarthy, because oh boy, do I have some stuff to say about McCarthy.
Okay,
but here's an anonymous scout on Michael Penix. His mechanics just throwing the ball are bizarre. He's got arm strength, big hands, and he can fling it. He's got a weird sidearm short release. Accuracy's up and down. I don't know how tough this kid is. He shows you fringe starter talent and barely number 3 talent.
Okay. Okay. What? Time out. Don't know how tough this kid is. Anonymous scout, did you watch how many times he got back up in the national championship game when he was getting destroyed out there?
Absolutely destroyed by Michigan.
Holy crap.
What is this fringe starter and barely number 3 talent? What?
I don't know.
I don't know what these guys are looking at.
Not accurate, not consistently accurate. What film are they watching?
Well, in the release thing, it's you just got to get over that. It's the Phillip Rivers thing. Again, Phillip Rivers, Michael Penix. One gets crushed for his throwing motion. One doesn't. I don't know, Mace. Sometimes it's obvious, everybody.
I learned long ago, don't mess with a throwing motion when you're talking about a quarterback who's gotten to this point, right? For better or for worse, don't mess with it.
And he can fling it. We saw that in the drills of the combine. He can absolutely spin the ball. It's those large hands and whatever sidearm, sure, it's ugly, whatever. I don't care. He can get it there, and he can get it there where he wants it to get there.
Yeah. get it there and get it there consistently. They're in a vacuum. Looks like that we saw at the combine. It's a machine. He's a machine. Like that's the good kind of robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a throwing robot. Like everything was on time, on point. And oh, by the way, with a bunch of pass catchers who he'd never worked with before, for the most part. A couple of UW guys, obviously, because they had a very nice receiving core that produced some players, including at least one first rounder. But yeah, that was. Sometimes I'm just like, what are they seeing, man? What are they seeing? It's like, and I think sometimes there's a crotchety element to it where it's just like nothing is ever going to be good enough, right? They're waiting for Joe Montana in 1984 to walk through that door.
It would be fun to go back, probably not Brady because people weren't necessarily talking about Brady as much, but go back and see what anonymous scout said about Pat Mahomes. Oh, well, it's Texas Tech, and yeah, I mean, this guy, just whatever. Like, all right, let's see the talent. Physical stuff's easy to see. I want the mental side of these guys.
Yeah.
And they're complaining about the throwing motion. Like he gets it there and he gets it where he wants it. So there you go. Let's do JJ McCarthy and Mace. I'll try to contain myself. I will try to respond and not react because when I first read this, I had some reactions and they were probably like this. And that's my ring finger. It's not anything else. So I don't get in trouble. But like, yeah, here we go. JJ McCarthy. You want to read it?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Quote, he's a one read, simple read guy, half field. Even with that, his accuracy is a little bit off. He's a good enough athlete, but nothing where you're saying this guy's dynamic. I just don't see a very talented dude, unquote.
Oh, my God. I give you one game, Alabama game. Alabama game, he was making full field reads, and he had some pick that was overturned. The guy stepped out of bounds, but he had some bad throws, but he was making full field reads. He was making on NFL design plays. He was making these throws against Alabama again. So in one game, you could watch one game of JJ McCarthy, and that's it, and it would destroy everything that guy just said. And I'm the person, along with Dane Brugler, who does not have JJ McCarthy as a first round pick.
Right, you got me round two.
On the first, yeah. He's a high second round graded player just based on his tools, but guess what? I don't think he's Andy Dalton. I don't think he's Drew Brees. I think Brees maybe is in that, Mahomes. Like, I don't like saying guys are Drew Brees. But we just don't know, Mace. We've seen him make full field reads. Yeah. We've seen him have advanced decisions. We've seen the pro accuracy. We just didn't get to see it enough because they had two running backs he could hand off all day to, and he's a runner as well. Athlete, not a quarterback.
Well, I mean, where do we begin? I don't want to put too much on the combine workout, but what that did show was that he can get there in terms of accuracy, and rhythm and timing, that it's going to come. I mean, yeah, there were some throws that he missed that you'd like to see him make, but not many. He got stronger as the session went on. Now, the question is that settling in, or is it because they started off going to the left and then they went to the right? Right. So it's not that he doesn't have things to learn, but to sit there and say he's not making full field reads. If you don't make full field reads, even at the college level, you're not playing for Jim Harbaugh. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. This show for both of us, I mean, this is a get stuff off my chest, but I mean, this crap circulates every stinking year.
Yep.
Like you say,
every year
needs to get new scouts. Maybe we should mind that. Maybe we should take this back, get some sensibility in there.
We could
get some sense and sensibility rather than pride and prejudice in terms of these evals.
It's a couple of times this week we've mentioned those two.
I know. I mean, multiple Jane Austen references in 1 week. Good grief, man!
Wow,
what
are we doing here? What in the world? And again, all due respect, and everyone go check out Ty Dunn's Substack. And all due respect to Bob McGinn, but some of these scouts, like your ignorance is showing. And yeah, I think that's probably the nicest way I could say it, Mace.
I think so as well. Real quick, do you want to hear the Bo Nix?
Oh
stuff?
God, the Bo Nix one was so awful as well. So yeah, read the Bo Nix one real quick. We can slice that up.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Well, on the positive side, he's smart like Alex Smith. I think he'll start. He doesn't make mistakes. Good athlete, good arm strength. He's improved a lot. At Auburn, he was just all over the place. He's a very disciplined quarterback. They did a very good job with him at Oregon. They have a system there, and he worked perfect in it. Okay, fine. Let's go to the stuff at the end. Quote, I've always questioned how well he feels the game, his moxie and poise. He got to Oregon, that system, and everything's just like a gimme. I just think he's really scattered. Good enough athlete. If things break down, he panics. Just a huge question mark, unquote. Now, one thing I will say is that we did see some of the, not panic. I didn't think it was panicking.
No.
At Senior Bowl week, I thought it was kind of slow to
react.
Slow to react, not panicking. He was slow to react. The panicking will be taking off from the pocket too soon. Right. Instead, he stayed in the pocket too long, kind of waiting for things to develop. I didn't think it was a panic thing. I thought it was just kind of you got to make that decision quicker. But that's not a panic thing on Bo Nix at all. I don't see a panicky quarterback.
And the anonymous scout said Kenny Pickett's better, which is not true.
Boy, yeah,
not true at all.
Oh, hey, no, he said he said he's better than Kenny Pickett. The quote was, he's more second round, but worse talented guys than him have been drafted in the first. He has more talent than Kenny Pickett, unquote.
Oh, boy.
Kenny Pickett, man.
Yeah, there we go.
Hand size.
Be like Jared Goff. Jared Goff was so upset at the combine. He's like, I won a lot of games with these tiny hands.
Well, Kenny Pickett is doing like the Brady Bunch thing. He's trying to how do I get? He found an eighth of an inch between the Senior Bowl and the combine. How? For a 24-year-old quarterback, that's what he was then, 24, right? Because right. On the top of everything else, he was on the older side of things.
Right.
So at 24 years old, he found another eighth of an inch on his hands between the Senior Bowl and the combine. Yeah, right.
Craziness.
I believe that.
Well, Mace, for Saturday, we got it off our chest, right?
Weekends are a good chance to do this, I think. Just
a little OBT2 vibes, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I kind of view
a show on Saturday, but we just want to.
I view a weekend show as an OBT2 show. Honestly, it's the same kind of vibe, same everything. And I got a feeling we're gonna have some OBT2 shows next week as well as we get into the start of the new league year. I think there's gonna be plenty to talk about.
Yep.
Because the Broncos are in cap compliance, but I think they've still got some more to do.
More work to do. It's Orange and Blue today. We want you to help us out on our YouTube channel. You've helped us out a lot. We appreciate that. So, Mace, how do they help us out?
It's real simple. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid.
There we have it. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT is a BFD. We appreciate you. Stay tuned and stay frosty.